Mark and I have been putting these on for a little over 12 years now, mainly so that you understand what the candidates for each office are talking about, what the dreams and visions are. We prefer to have it just a one-on-one situation where you're able to talk and ask questions. If you have questions, we have cards up here with pens. Write the question out, come back, give it to me, and I'll make sure that Mark gets it inserted with the questions we have already for them. These are very informative. No name calling, other than Mark. But anyhow, we enjoy it. We thank you all for coming. There's going to be 12 of these throughout the next 2 months, so we're really going to get into it and have some good times. If you have a concern with the candidates, make sure you get the question down so that we can get it to them and you can get your answers.
Could we know their names? I'm fairly new.
What? They will be introduced momentarily.
Mark will introduce everybody. Mark is the moderator for our candidate forums. Does a terrific job, regardless of what the candidates think. Okay. With that, Mark, it's all yours.
Thank you, Ken. As Ken indicated, we try to focus on individual candidates for a particular race. Tonight, I believe, is the only time we are doubled up for the entire session, so we're really fortunate that we have individual evenings and individual sessions for each. I used to moderate debates for the Chamber of Commerce League of Women Voters Forums back when I was very active in the Chamber, and I saw some things that I would like to improve on. Ken approached me, and we've kind of got this down to a science where we give the candidates a little bit more time to talk about issues, and we think that's important to you as constituents and also the media that's reporting this. We have Dwayne, who's filming for KLTV. I know we have a reporter, Rose, from the Daily News. I didn't see Ray or anybody from radio stations, but I did talk to them this morning, so I know that they're aware of that as well. I'd like to give you a little idea on how the format works. We started out with a coin toss. It was won by Jeffrey. I have to keep, most of these people I know, tonight it's like, okay, Jeffrey McAllister, Dan Vannelli, and that does make it easier because you have a name thing. Jeffrey won the coin toss. He selected to go first for opening statements. Dan selected to go first for closing statements, so we will follow that order. The candidate going first at the opening of the forum will have 3 minutes to give opening remarks, followed by the opponent with 3-minute opening remark time limit. After the opening remarks, the opening candidate will have 3 minutes to answer the first question, followed by the opponent. They'll both have up to 2 minutes for a rebuttal. After that, 1 rebuttal per question. They do not have to use the full 2 minutes, as I've mentioned to both of them. Sometimes you have candidates that agree on an issue, so there isn't much time or much need to rebut. Sometimes they prefer to get to more questions and they would just as soon move on. Other times there is disagreement and they want to clarify their positions. That's fine. We're giving you an adequate time to do that. After the first question, for the second question, the order will reverse and we'll continue through the questions. Timekeeper has symbols back there, and I can't barely read that because I don't have my glasses. So
both candidates already said they could read it.
That's good, but I'm the moderator. I'm the one that's supposed to chop them off, so you'll have to wave it if it's at the. You have a 2 minute and then what were your other signs, Ken? 1 minute, I can read that one. And 30 seconds, and time, or finish, whatever that says. It's a shorter one, so I know what that one is. My vision is great up to about Mr. Futcher, and after that, not so much. It's kind of a fuzz after that, but we'll get through that. Citizens attending have an opportunity to fill out questions as well. We already have a couple of them that came in. There are cards and pens back there, as Ken indicated. Please give those questions to Ken, and he'll get them up to me. Just a real quick word on that. We don't like political statements, and you'll have a much better chance of me asking the question of the candidates if it's actually a question and it's focused on an issue of something like that. We're here to listen to the candidates, not to anybody's particular opinion to that. With that, we shall begin. Are you ready, Mr. Timekeeper? Yep. For opening statements, Jeffrey McAllister goes first.
Jeffrey McAllister, recent resident of Kelso, been living there about 3 years, lived there for a few months before that in a rental. Decided to buy the home in Kelso for the schools and the water. Got 3 children in the schools. My main goal is when my children grow up, go out into the world, I'd like them to be able to look at Kelso as the place that they could stay and live and raise their children and have their families in the future. Firmly believe that we can live up to the city motto, City of Friendly People. I'd like to see more economic development. I'd like to see some community revitalization, and I'm focused on community health. That's my statement.
All right, thank you.
Mark? I
Yes.
was just reminded, we did not tell what positions there were.
That would be an important information to share. This is for Kelso City Council position number 1. So that is important to share the information that the office they're campaigning for. With that, Dan,
Should I stand up or?
it's up to you. Some candidates prefer to stand, some candidates prefer to sit. It's your choice.
I don't know. My name is Dan Vannelli. I was born in Longview. I've lived in South Kelso for the last 10 years. I like South Kelso quite a bit. My reason for running for Kelso City Council was to start to get involved in the community. This was my first choice to jump straight into something. Just doing this has opened my eyes to how much more there is to do in the community than just city council or local government. There's a whole series of committees and groups and organizations I wasn't even aware of until the last few months. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is because I want to help the community. I don't know, much like what he said as far as family, I do not have a family yet. I hope to have a family and raise a family and stay here for my entire life, except for vacations to Vegas. At which point, I want them to be able to, have a good education, have a good lifestyle, be able to work and play and be safe. I want to support the schools, the infrastructure, emergency services, and the community needs as much as anyone can do on the city council. Talking to some of the city council members we have now, they also need to be very active in what they do. They take a big part in the city besides just the council itself. It is a voluntary position, and I think that's a pretty big step for someone to take. So my goal is just to help out. This is my first debate, and mostly what I'm going to be doing here is learning what the issues are, what people want to know about, and what you guys think and need. Because a lot of that stuff I don't know yet, but I'm going to learn a lot tonight, hopefully. And that's about it.
Thank you. First question will be directed to Jeffrey McAllister. What do you see as a council member's job in running the city?
To communicate with the people, to represent the people to city staff, and try to meet the residents' concerns and needs.
Okay. Same question.
Maybe I won't stand up every time.
What's that?
Maybe I won't stand up every time.
Mark,
Excuse me.
if you could have the candidate speak out this way instead of talking to you, people can't hear us.
All right, so position for city council's job is to work with the community and the staff, come up with ideas and solve problems. The community will put together a request. Council might come up with ideas of their own to put up for requests. The staff that I've seen over there in Kelso is very active at what they do as far as budgets and planning and authorizing funding for certain things within the community, from the senior centers to community reach out programs to the neighborhood watches and whatnot. They have a much bigger role than I was aware of when I first started this. It seems like they can put all the time they want into it and not have enough time to get everything done that they could do. So the main job is to better the community and oversight and watch and be part of a team that works as a team to make the best decisions for the community and what's right for everybody.
Thank you. Would you care to add a rebuttal or take 2 minutes?
No
or-
rebuttal.
No?
I would imagine you just finished speaking, so. Second question will be directed first at Dan Vannelli. A lack of affordable housing can affect both home buyers and renters and exacerbate the problem of homelessness. Discuss your thoughts and priorities regarding efforts to deal with homelessness, providing adequate access to mental health services, and the availability of affordable housing.
I was unaware of how low our available housing is until this morning, actually. I had a meeting this morning, and we discussed it a little bit, and I have a lot to learn about all of those topics. We need more affordable housing. People are waiting in line for affordable houses as we speak. How to fix that, the only way I know of without learning more is I need to learn how and communicate with people that are involved in the housing community and the housing, the committees that deal with those things. But right now, I don't know how to fix the problem without learning more about the problem.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure, be happy to. At any time you want me to repeat a question, I'm happy to do so. A lack of affordable housing can affect both home buyers and renters and exacerbate the problems of homelessness. Discuss your thoughts and priorities regarding efforts to deal with homelessness, providing adequate access to mental health services, and the availability of affordable housing.
Well, at the planning commission that I'm on now in Kelso, we worked with a comprehensive plan and we rezoned many areas of the city to allow for multifamily affordable housing. I'd like to continue working with the council and pass ordinances to allow for what they call micro-housing, which I believe is a good, affordable way for a family to start off with a small home and build equity to eventually buy a larger home. Homelessness is a problem. It does need to be dealt with. I don't agree with the low barrier method that was tried in Kelso, but I believe there is a method we can use out there through zoning and ordinances to assure the safety of the homeless, the residents of the city, and the employees of the shelter that's housing the homeless. Mental health accessibility is very important. It goes along with the community health. Bringing in, trying to attract more services aimed to that area, supporting the county's boards on health and mental health. I believe St. John's has programs that deal with mental health issues. Just steer people more towards those programs, try to attract more programs.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vannelli, if
No,
you'd like,
no.
you have
Nope.
time? Any additional time you'd like to take? You've covered? All right. Third question, I believe, will be directed first at Mr. McAllister. City operating budgets involve a variety of funds, many of them dedicated to a specific purpose, together with the competing interests of many departments. In your view, what should be the highest priorities in the City of Kelso budgeting?
Highest priority is law enforcement. That should be with any city. It's important to keep the citizens safe first and foremost. Following that, probably streets, infrastructure, keeping our water system going, because we have a great water system as it is. We don't want to have that become faulty. Not sure what else.
Okay.
That's what I have at the moment.
All right. Mr. Vannelli, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I also believe with the budget that emergency services come first, along with infrastructure, so that we have, a safe environment, clean environment, and good roads and streets and sidewalks. I also believe that community development with parks are also in there, and then you go into the economic development. And as a government, you have to spend money to develop something to get people to come in and build a business or an industry, so that you can grow as a city.
Okay. Would you like any additional time for
Not
the?
at this point, no.
Seems like we have a lot of agreement this evening, so that's, I guess that's
It's getting along pretty good.
moving us through it seemed like that at the introduction portion. Question number 4 will be directed first to Mr. Vannelli. Do you have a plan you want to work on for helping Kelso businesses grow?
I was looking at that today and trying to find out what communities there are for businesses to grow and to bring in commerce, to the city. Kelso County has a website, CEDC, Kelso Economical Development, Kelso Economical Development Committee or Council. When you look under Kelso, there's only one plot of land on their website for development for Kelso. It seems the website at the county level should have more than one business owner. You can drive through town and find lots of empty warehouses and commercial, industrial places available for use. So I think that needs to be updated and worked on. Also, I think communicating with both business owners that are already here and the landlords that are already here with empty spaces and see what their needs are, so that learning from them, you can figure out what other businesses outside the community might want to bring available to them to come into this community. So beyond that, educating myself and working on that would be something that I'd have to learn to do.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. McAllister. Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Do you have a plan you want to work on for helping Kelso businesses grow?
I've been working with Planning Commission on rezoning areas for development. The comprehensive plan, we rezoned areas, tried to simplify language, make it easier for businesses to come into the area. We're working right now with the Anchor Point development overlay, which would give a general outline of what kind of infrastructure and stuff to put into Anchor Point in order to attract businesses. Communicating with business owners is important, finding out what their needs are, maybe changing some of the ordinances and restrictions that are on businesses in the city now to make it easier for them to expand, attract other business into the area. Cleaning up the city, making it presentable is always going to attract business. Attract business, you attract tax base that allows us to continue upgrading the parks and such. Leave it there.
All right. Mr. Vannelli, any additional comments or rebuttal?
No.
And I assume that's no as well? All right. Next question, I believe is number 5, so this will be directed to Mr. McAllister first. What is the role of a city council member in engaging community members in City of Kelso decision-making? In what way are you best suited to fulfill this role?
I believe the city councilman should reach out to the citizens, not just voters, but the entire city. There are many citizens of the city that aren't able to vote for one reason or another, that we still need to hear them, find out what their needs are, what their situations are. I believe it's mostly on the city councilman to reach out to find out what people want, the best way to communicate what their needs are to the staff. Don't have anything else at the moment.
All right. Mr. Vannelli, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
What is the role of a city council member in engaging community members in the City of Kelso decision-making? In what way are you best suited to fulfill this role?
Community members should be encouraged to come to the council meetings and to write letters and emails and call in if they have questions, concerns, and issues. As a council member, I should be active in the community, going to events, being part of the committees, so I can be part of committees, active in my own neighborhoods and whatnot, and get to know the people themselves. The only way that I can know what they need is to communicate with them, to talk with them, whether it's a night out function or a club dinner or a meeting of some kind. I would just think that interaction with the community is the best way to figure that out. And then, like I said, them showing up at council meetings would be excellent, and then voicing their opinions along with the emails and letters and social media. I don't have an answer for why I'd be better than Jeff.
Okay.
I'll actually take time this time.
All right, there we go.
I missed that portion of the question. I believe I'm best suited to that role because I'm willing to listen and learn on the issues, to hear what people's thoughts and feelings are on what they need done in the city. That's all I need.
All right. Mr. Vannelli, would you like a chance
Nope.
to respond? Okay. Question 6 would go first to Mr. Vannelli. Given budget constraints and the difficulty of continuing to provide the services that citizens desire, would you be in favor of pursuing a major partnership or combination of services with the City of Longview or Cowlitz County? Please describe your vision of future government services in the local area.
That's a big question.
It is. That's what happens when they don't give me questions and I have to.
I'm not qualified to answer that question, honestly. I would like to see, I see right now that Kelso and Longview work together and do have some connections and stuff. I do not know to the level of that right now. I would not know what it is. I like to see that grow if it is there. I don't have a vision of where it would end up with at this point, with knowledge that I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. McAllister, would you like me to repeat it since it was a rather lengthy?
Yeah, that's good.
Given budget constraints and the difficulty of continuing to provide the services that citizens desire, would you be in favor of pursuing a major partnership or combination of services with the City of Longview or Cowlitz County? Please describe your vision of future government services in the local area.
I know there are some partnerships going on right now that are possibly a little more informal, such as law enforcement, Longview Police Department, Kelso Police Department, Sheriff's Department, all back each other up regularly. I believe fire and emergency support personnel back each other up. Those partnerships are important, should be supported. Combining services, I'm not sure if I'd have to see information that proves that it would be viable and the best thing for the citizens of the city and what they want. That's it for my answer.
All right. Any response or rebuttal? I would assume you're finished with that one. Question 7. This one will go to Mr. McAllister first. Employment and income are critical factors for families and individuals to have resources to buy food, shelter, medical coverage, and education. What would be your view on how to improve the employment situation in the local area?
As discussed on one of the further questions, rezoning is a good way of developing further the economic base to provide the jobs and income. Anchor Point's the important thing right now because it's our one major industrial zone in the city that could bring in hundreds of family wage jobs, not just in construction, but when a business actually starts to function on the site, permanent jobs. Working with businesses in the city to find out what they need done so that they can expand, provide more jobs, provide more economic base to the city. I think that's
Okay.
it at the moment.
Mr. Vannelli, would you like me to repeat the question?
Nope. It falls right back into economic development and bringing in more businesses and more jobs for our community. We also have, places like Goodwill and WorkSource to help to retrain our employees and get them ready for new jobs. Beyond that, I'd have to look into it more.
Okay. Next question will be directed first at Mr. Vannelli. Many, often unfunded mandates are handed down by the Washington State Legislature to cities. In your opinion, what are the most critical mandates handed down in recent years, and how will you work with local legislators to resolve problems created by mandates?
I have no answer. I have no answer on any of the mandates.
Okay. Mr. McAllister?
One mandate I'm aware of right now is the prosecutor workload. I believe is mandated that only so many cases per lawyer per year are allowed, and the funding was not provided by the state. Working with legislators to change that, try to get some funding to help alleviate the cost of the prosecutors. Other than that, I'm not aware of any other mandates at the moment, but more than willing to learn about it.
All right, thank you. Any additional comments? All right. Next question will be directed first at Mr. McAllister. Describe the infrastructure needs of the city of Kelso and your view of how these needs should be met.
I think the most important infrastructure need right now is continuing the flow of traffic through the city and upkeeping the streets, keeping the storm drains clear so that streets don't become flooded and cause more damage, potholes and such. Funding for that, I know they increased tab fees. I'm not in favor of increasing more tab fees, but money has to come from somewhere. Reaching out to state legislator might be able to help more with that.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Vannelli?
Can we repeat it one more time?
Many often unfunded mandates are handed down by the...
Next question.
Oh, my mistake. Describe the infrastructure needs of the city of Kelso and your view of how those needs should be met.
City of Kelso infrastructure, streets, roads, sidewalks, street signs, lights, sewer, Every city needs them. Kelso's doing a pretty good job right now of fixing streets that I can see. They have them, I'm not sure how the funding works for those things. Not being in government yet, I haven't seen behind the curtain yet. So I don't know how to improve what they're already doing. I would say they're doing a pretty good job right now with the streets they have done that I've seen in the last year so far.
All right, thank you. Any additional? All right. Question 10 we're up to, so this would go first to Mr. Vannelli. What do you believe is the single most important issue currently facing the city of Kelso?
Most important one. Probably right now, the homeless situation and the drugs in the community would be the most important situation facing them now. Homelessness is a big issue. We had a place in town, and then they moved. Whether they were good or bad, I couldn't answer right now. I've been looking at what other cities have been doing for that problem, and ties right back into the housing issue. But yeah, I definitely say homelessness and drug use are the biggest ones that challenge right now.
Okay. Mr. McAllister, same question. Would you like me to repeat? What do you believe is the single most important issue currently facing the city of Kelso?
Single most important issue for the city of Kelso is economic development to keep the city viable in the future. We need to increase the tax base instead of trying to squeeze water from the same stone over and over again. That way we can deal with providing low-income housing, street cleanup, infrastructure improvements, working on the homeless situation. It does all come down to the economy, at least in my opinion. I think we need to attract businesses to help deal with that. Businesses themselves might have programs to help out with that. I know that a lot of bigger businesses in the area are involved in the community, and that does help with homelessness, shelter, other issues of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vannelli, any additional comments? I would assume you've... Next question will be sent to Mr. McAllister first. Would you support development at Acre Point if the tenant was a methanol plant, a petroleum refinery, a coal terminal?
Personally, for that, if elected to the council and representing the people, I would have to turn to them and what their wants and opinions are on the kind of businesses that can go in there. And passing the Anchor Point plan on the city council, that was one of the stipulations that I asked to be put on it, was that they pay close attention to what the citizens wanted and what their concerns were.
All right, thank you. Same question, would you like me to repeat?
No, I got it.
Okay.
I would be for a plant of any type like that. I'd be open to the idea, we need to have big businesses like that in there, big industry. Community involvement would have to be involved in the decision, as far as, their opinions and how they feel about it. But I think it would be good for the city.
For all of those three choices, is that what you're?
Yes.
Okay. Any additional comments or? All right, I assume you're finished as well for that?
Yep.
Question 12 will be directed first at Mr. Vannelli. The City of Kelso is a partner agency for the Industrial Way, Oregon Way intersection project. Do you support this program? What is the benefit to the citizens of Kelso?
Is this the ongoing program where they've been upgrading the roads over there?
Yes, there's a multi-agency effort to upgrade the intersection.
I'm not aware of how that's working or the details of that, so I don't have an opinion at this time.
Okay. Mr. McAllister?
Repeat the question, please.
The City of Kelso is a partner agency for the Industrial Way, Oregon Way intersection project. Do you support this program? What is the benefit to the citizens of Kelso?
I would support the program. It's alleviating a traffic issue there. It's going to help with the free flow of trade through the city. Even though it's over in Longview, it's still one of our direct accesses to the state of Oregon and Highway 30. It's one of our main rail lines coming through the area. That supplies jobs to Kelso, even though the businesses are in Longview. It is important.
Okay. Mr. Vannelli, any additional comments? And that's okay, I'll grab it in a second. Question 13 will go to Mr. McAllister first. Do you feel that the collaboration between the City of Kelso and other public agencies within the county needs to be strengthened? If yes, how would you bring it about?
I would have to take that on a issue-by-issue basis on what the partnership would be and how it would be run. Gathering more information on it before I can make a comment or a position on it.
Okay. Mr. Vannelli, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Do you feel that collaboration between the City of Kelso and other public agencies within the county needs to be strengthened? If yes, how would you bring that about?
I have no answer. I'm not sure how we are with that right now in the city council, working with the other agencies. I'm sure there's always room for improvement, but without having more knowledge, I wouldn't know how to start that.
Okay. Any additional comments? Assume that applies as well. Next question, we're back to an even-numbered question, so this would be first to Mr. Vannelli. And I better write this number down so I can keep track of these. If voters reject incorporation into the city, should the city annex regardless in the best interest of the community at large?
I don't have enough information to answer that question either. I'm not sure where they're at with the annexing of the bubbles in Kelso. I mean, it's one city vote. If they vote it down, then we have to respect their vote.
Okay.
That's all there would be to it. I wouldn't see how you'd override it.
Same question, Mr. McAllister. Would you like me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
If voters reject incorporation into the city, should the city annex regardless in the best interest of the community at large?
I don't believe they should annex anyway. I think the way they're handling it right now with giving it to the voters is the best way to do it. Possibly getting the lands that are needed for the projects that are coming up through purchasing. I don't think it should be forced on anyone.
Okay. Any additional comments?
No.
Sounds like you're both in agreement on that one. 15 is kind of a nebulous thing, but it's basically asking for your position on fireworks, whether they should be legal to use or sell, or there should be restrictions. And this will go first to Mr. McAllister.
I've taken the position that I did support the petition that went through the community, the guidelines that were put forth in it I thought were fair. Saw no reason to disagree with them. I do believe that as a representative of the city on a city council, I would have to defer to the opinion of the people and what they wanted on that issue.
Okay. Same question, Mr. Vannelli?
I reviewed that one today. I learned something today about that one. I do believe that we should shorten the window for purchasing and the discharge of fireworks. We are fairly close to the state law right now, except for we do reduce the hours on the 5th of July. I don't see any reason for there to be 7 days of fireworks. Having friends that are vets and animals in my house, I do understand how large noises are an issue for them. I do enjoy fireworks. I think we should have them for the 4th and for New Year's. They're a big part of our history and our community. But I do think that we could rein it in a little bit on the days leading up to the 4th of July. And then as far as the specific fireworks, I'm not sure what our current firework law is as far as which ones are legal and not legal. But I do believe that any legislation that we have, any rules we have about that should be enforced.
Okay, thank you. Any additional?
I'll add one thing. I do believe with the discussion of the petition going through the community is at least adding some, taking a look at the current laws and how better to enforce them. So if nothing else, it's opening up communication and dialogue between the cities, the county, and trying to do something about the issue.
Okay. Mr. Vannelli, any additional comments on that one?
No.
Next question, and probably the final one if we don't have additional, oh no, I do have one other one. This will be directed first to Mr. Vannelli. How would you improve voters' rights, engagement, and overall numbers of voters?
I'm not sure, I mean, by voters' rights, I guess it'd be the people who are eligible to vote, would be the question?
I'm not sure since
Not sure.
it was
Okay.
handed here. I think you can interpret that however you'd like to answer the question.
All right. The biggest thing is, the government mails out pamphlets prior to the thing. There's several news articles already, about the elections coming up and who's in them. Debates like this are part of the process. My first debate, so it's kind of intimidating, but it's all part of the process. I think it's just more communication, more outreach. We're just trying to widen everyone's understanding of how the process works. I know in high school, we learned a little bit about it, and then after high school, it just all kind of disappeared. You don't think about it for like 15 years. And then you get a little bit older and you get responsible and you get a job and you start to think about it again and how it all works. Getting younger people more involved in the process throughout school and after school might improve the overall numbers down the road. But I still think it comes back to getting more younger people involved. How to accomplish that would be a trial and error thing. I don't have all the answers on that.
All right, thank you. Mr. McAllister, same question. Would you like me to repeat?
Yeah.
How would you improve voters' rights, engagement, and overall numbers of voters?
I've had a few discussions in the community about this. I could see having some sort of civics assembly, civics class, demonstration, however you want to put it, maybe put on at the library or a rock the vote type thing at a city park or something, have the registration forms on hand, try to get people interested and at least registered is going to at least increase awareness of their right to vote, when to vote, how to vote. It needs to be more involved, especially after this last major election. It's been on my mind constantly. Not enough people are turning out to vote. 10% voter turnout, I think, in Kelso last year. It doesn't sound very good to me. People are forgetting what their franchise empowers them to do in the community, in the state, in the federal government. It's important, it needs to be taught.
Any additional words, Mr. Vannelli?
No?
That's in your final question, since we've run out of questions. This will go first to Mr. McAllister. If citizens are divided evenly on an issue from your due diligence, how would you determine your vote?
Citizens are divided equally on an issue. I'm still a citizen of the community, and at that point, it would have to come down to how I felt on an issue. As a community member, as a citizen of Kelso, and that's my right to vote on it too.
Okay. Same question, Mr. Vannelli. Would you like me to repeat?
I don't know. If the citizens were, equal on a decision, if we divided, and you came down to the council person to make those decisions, you would just hope that you make the right decision for the community based on the information you have at hand. You'd be the deciding vote. But that's how it works out. As far as I know. But beyond that, other than redoing the whole process over again and trying to come up with a new answer, it would seem like, no, that's it. You just make a decision based on what you have.
Okay. Any additional comments? Assume you're finished as well, Mr. Vannelli?
Yeah.
Time for closing comments. First up, based on the coin toss, will be Mr. Vannelli.
My first debate, I don't think I did very well. I now have 17 new questions to go research. I appreciate you all for coming out and helping us learn. Being new to this, it's very interesting. I find it exciting and scary at the same time. I hope that in coming debates and coming meetings, you'll see a big change in development in my understanding of the process and what we are doing, what we are talking about, what we're trying to accomplish. I hope it will only get better from here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McAllister, closing comments.
I'd like to thank Ken and Mark for putting this on, giving us the chance to get out in the community and have our voices heard. I just want to, if elected, I hope I work to better the community, better the city of Kelso. I'm more than willing to hear from anybody on any issue. I'd like communication from people. I'd like to know what their thoughts are and what's going on. I'm open. My email address is public knowledge. My phone number is public knowledge. Reach out to me.
All right, thank you. Typically, at the end of each of these debates, I go through a series of thank yous and comments, but we have another debate coming right after this one, so I'll reserve most of those, but I would first like to thank Mr. McAllister and Mr. Vannelli for putting themselves forward, because it is a challenge any time that you put yourself forward for an office, and they should be appreciated for doing that. So thank you both. We'll now take a break.